Hello, everyone. My name is Juliano, and I'm a program manager here as part of the Microsoft Teams product group. As part of my job, I get to work with schools and universities across the US and abroad, helping educators, teaching and learning, ed tech, IT, and students to address their collaboration challenges. We really appreciate your time today. We know it's back to school time, so thank you for choosing to spend the next 2 days with us. So let's take a look at the agenda. We start today talking about modern learning with Microsoft Education and what's new to Teams. So we're going to cover some customer stories, both in K-12 and higher ed, and talk a little bit about recent updates, announcements, and what's coming to Teams. We will then switch to best practices on synchronous teaching sessions, structuring sessions and things you can do before, during, and after your classes. We follow up that with feedback options to receive feedback from students. We take a quick break today after that, and then we come back with best practices around collaboration, extending those best practices for online classes now to conversations and how you can get most engagement from your students. We then will switch to Microsoft Teams and LMSs and how you can get the most out of this combination, how you can augment your LMS. And we finalize the day talking about Microsoft bookings and how you can use it to help scheduling sessions with between faculty and students. For day two, we are going to repeat this session for the first 30 minutes. And after that, we are going to switch to surveys and quizzes using forms. So you're going to see some of the options you can use there inside and outside the classroom. We will then cover some cool ideas and options here using SharePoint spaces. So I don't want to get into a lot of the product functionality here, but really giving new options, new ideas so teachers can share information with their students. After the quick break, we'll talk a little bit about on-demand learning. So on-demand lectures, lessons using Microsoft Streams. And again, the options you have to create a beautiful video gallery to make it easier for everyone to find that content. We then move to assessment with Teams using the assignments app, what's available today and what's coming as well. And we wrap up the event sharing resources around professional development and recognition for all educators after that. We designed this event, given the scenario we're in right now, we designed this event trying to have as much as hands-on activities as possible. So we recommend you to either go to teams.microsoft.com, use your Office 365 credentials, and then you can basically follow us through some of the activities throughout these 2 days, or you can just minimize the event and do some things in parallel in your own Teams desktop client as well. We know when we do these events, of course, content is important. We'll make this content available for you. We're going to share this link as well as part of the window, the chat window, and you can get the slides for today and tomorrow after the session, so you don't need to worry about that. So we'll start with challenges we see in education today, starting with long-term challenges. Digital skills, the digital skills gap, it's nothing new. It's not getting better, we can say that, where students really understand that it's getting harder to get a job without having this digital skills. So it doesn't matter if they're going to work in technology or not. This is more and more necessary today. And it's very clear, this is very clear in higher education, but even when we think about kids, infusing technology, making sure we help them to become digital citizens is more and more important. This is on the long term. If we think about the short term, we just need to look around and see all the uncertainty, thinking about what is the right option, thinking about students' safety, but also faculty, thinking about implications for parents and what leaders need to do. So we understand that this is going on right now. There's a lot of questions. What we did to help to that, or through that transition, is basically putting together this guideline to help you to understand the best options around hybrid learning. So you have the link right there, and we're going to post this in the chat. Again, you can take a look. And look, we don't believe technology is the answer for these challenges, long term and short term, but we do believe we can help. And this is what we're going to do through the next 2 days. We're going to share options, and hopefully at the end of these 2 days, you will be able to go back. First of all, you learn something new, and you'll be able to go back and share this with your students, share this with your peers, and hopefully help you to tackle these challenges. If we think about these challenges from a team's perspective, what we notice is we have surpassed over 180,000 schools and universities around the world using Teams for Education. So let's just pause there for a second. We were talking about 180,000 institutions around the world that had to adapt to the new reality, often overnight. So we will talk about how this happened and share some of these examples. If we step back for a second and talk about Teams in general, not just in education, when we posted the last information in April, we had 75 million users using Teams every day. So students, faculty, but also companies, employees, staff members using Teams on a daily basis, reaching over 4.1 billion meeting minutes. So that's why we say, hey, we were expecting this digital transformation, this change to come over years, and everything happened in months. And some institutions were more prepared or less prepared, but we're here to help in any case. And the reason Teams has seen this adoption is basically as that hub for teamwork, bringing together everyone, bringing people together, but also bringing conversations, meetings, files, tasks, videos, dashboards, and so on and so forth. Teams is in a very unique position to address very different use cases. And this is what you see here now. You see, of course, we're going to focus a lot on teaching and learning. So Teams in the classroom, what you can do in the classroom, preparing for the classroom, encouraging student engagement, but also beyond that, now learning from your peers. We're talking about different options around professional development. And depending on how you're using Teams, you can get the most there as well. But also thinking about beyond the class, thinking about students and how they can build their own communities using Teams in a different way. We go to researchers as well, and we can help with research within the university, but beyond the university boundaries as well, ensuring secure collaboration. And of course, faculty and staff collaboration. This is pretty much what we do in Microsoft. We join meetings every day. We create presentations, we share documents, we create tasks, we record, we take notes. So this is the day-to-day collaboration that we can also address in Teams. To illustrate that, we're going to start with University of Texas at Arlington. We're talking about 60,000 students. This is before the pandemic, by the way. They already had over 25% of students online. And basically, the story here is starts with Dr. Ponce and the challenge to make sure students had the support they needed using channels that make sense for them. So I'll run a video here. You'll be able to hear from UTA how they're doing that.
We have a huge population of students, not only in our region, but we also serve students that are online. And our students are all juggling a lot. So we want to be sure that the resources that we have really are focused on our students.
I'm a lecturer in the Department of English here at the University of Texas, Arlington. My students tend to push away from the provided platforms that we offer for communication. Students don't want to use email.
It's a little bit intimidating because, you know, you have to follow the standards. We're used to social media and just a quick instant messaging.
Before, I used other options like Remind text messaging service, Blackboard chat, or Canvas chat. I was seeing them struggling. And so what I began to think about was, how can I offer them a way to communicate with me in something that feels familiar, but is also in alignment with all university communication policies for students? And that's when I found out about Teams.
As a student, it's very useful for having everything in one area. It's very easy to just message a professor and they usually respond quickly. It's got assignments on there. I can share my screen.
One of the most powerful tools within teaching teams is collaborative authorship. I'm able to open the same documents that they're opening and offer feedback while they're actually authoring the document.
Helps your assignment flow better. They are helping you along the way, just like if you would go to their office hours.
I am a student worker on campus, and that function is very useful for having team meetings with coworkers on other side of the campus. I can just click a button and, hey, video chat real quick and show them what I'm looking at.
In an aggregate, it really helps our students juggle all of the things that they're trying to do and finish in a reasonable amount of time.
Using Microsoft Teams, it's made education accessible for a large, diverse audience of students, which is really something we have to think about as we're moving our students into the job market and we're looking at being good citizens of not only local, but also a global community.
So here's an example in higher education and some takeaways here: making technology accessible and bringing things together, and most of all, connecting students and faculty. If we move on to the next story, this is a K-12 story coming from Duval County Public Schools in Jacksonville, Florida. The story is amazing. This has a longer video, so I'm not going to play the full video. I'm going to give you a sample. But basically, we had an interview or a discussion with the leadership team over there. So you're going to hear from Dr. Diana Green, the superintendent, but also Kathy Hart, the director of technology innovation, and Jim Colbert, the CIO, how they were able to manage to bring 130,000 students to embrace remote learning. And they talk about planning and leveraging technology, but also supporting teachers. So what they did around professional development was pretty unique as well, and we can learn a lot from that. But basically, the discussion will be around challenges, learnings, and advice. So we encourage you to take a look at the video. You should have the link at the chat window now, and I'm going to play the sample for you right now.
To say Microsoft Teams was a great benefit would be an understatement. Microsoft Teams, along with our district leadership and our schools, came together, and we were probably one of the most successful school districts in implementing home learning.
So the story is longer than that, but basically planning, I think, was key here. And what they were doing before the pandemic was what got them ready to react fast in a good way, addressing students, addressing faculty needs as well. And of course, they still have challenges. They talk about this in the video. So take a look, watch the video later on to get the full story, please. So one way to look at Teams is really from that hub perspective. The other way is beyond connecting everyone, Teams also connects everything. So Teams now as a platform, we can see out of the box, we can use Teams for calls and meetings and online classes, of course, chat. We can create teams. We have classes in those teams, structuring classes, organizing by topics, by week, adding specific services. But then think about Teams as this platform surfacing, bringing to life a lot of the things, the applications, the services we already use. So Microsoft, we have PowerPoint. We're already using PowerPoint. We're already taking notes in OneNote. We see our calendars. We save files. We work on documents. We create quizzes, and so on and so forth. So connecting all these Microsoft apps in Teams to enrich the experience, and beyond, bringing partners as well. So bringing education-specific partners like Kahoot and Wakelet and Buncee and PerDeck and Nearpod and others, of course, into Teams. Again, connecting the experience, connecting everything you need. And of course, thinking about our own Microsoft education-specific applications. So OneNote class notebook used by millions of teachers already. Assignments integrated in Teams. We're going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow in the assessment session. And Flipgrid, that has been part of the Microsoft family now for a while. I'm going to zoom in on Flipgrid right now and make sure you're aware of this. So early this year, we created this team scenario libraries. We have one for K-12, one for higher ed. You see the links there. You can use the QR codes. You can do this now, but I'm going to walk you through what we have there, and then I'm going to share an example. So first of all, this is a place where educators, students, and staff join and share why they're using Teams and how they're using Teams. So we're talking about short videos between 2, 3, 5 minutes, and they would just use Flipgrid to say, hey, this is the problem. This is why I'm using Teams to address my need here in this specific scenario. So very simple. So first of all, I encourage you to take a look. And second, I invite you to share your own story so your peers can learn from your challenges as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump into our third example here from Fulton County Schools in Atlanta, Georgia, where Mindy has been using Teams for professional development, professional learning community. So she's basically going to show you how she's organizing everything in Teams. Here again, I'm going to play a sample of the video. The video has 3 minutes or so. So you're going to see a little bit of how this looks like. This is the main goal here. So you can understand, okay, I can't do this fast. I can check the options there. I can watch this, consume this content in my own time and get ideas and use whatever fits my own needs. So let's take a look here. And this is going to be a little bit small because I just want you to get a glimpse of it.
My name is Mindy Ramon, and I work in Fulton County Schools in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm going to share with you how I use Microsoft Teams with our Vanguard team. So our Vanguard team is a group of over 300 teachers across the district, and Teams has become our primary mode.
So I'm going to pause here for a second. Mindy is going to share the scenario. Hey, this is why we're using Teams. This is how we're structuring the conversation. And now I'm going to just fast forward a bit. I want you to see
Sessions via the
here. You're going to see actually how the team is working. Hey, this is how we post. This is how we share recordings. This is how we schedule sessions. She's going to talk about creating a channel for shout out. So best practices, things that are working for her and the Fulton County Schools team that you can take into your own school or university as well. So make sure you're leveraging those resources. And again, we invite you to share your own experience over there. So let's switch gears now and talk about functionalities just for a while. We want to make sure you're aware of what has been recently released. It's been a lot, so it's kind of hard to keep up. The top two you see here, 7x7 video together modes. So this is, we're rolling this out now. So this should become available for you under the new Teams meeting experience. So if you don't have that yet, go to settings and select the new meeting experience. And by the end of August, you should have access to that. This is, again, rolling out now, so some of you may have access already. But of course, reading body language and reacting to, be able to see how students are reacting, we understand this is going to help a lot inside the classroom. Raise hand has been available for a few months now as well. Live captions, as well, thinking about accessibility, translation on the mobile client. And the next one here is interesting, SCORM. We have this standard to share content in education, but you see we do this through an app. And this is a partner app from Go1 in this case. But I think the main thing here I want to land is really the fact that there's a lot of things we deliver directly in Teams, like 7x7 together mode and raise hand. But there's a lot that will come from different apps. So here, I invite you to take a look at the apps you're already using outside of Teams and check if it's available in Teams, in the App Store. We have over 500 or even 600 apps there. So chances are at least some of the apps you're using will be available in Teams to enrich your experience and consolidate everything, minimizing content switching and everything else. We also increase the number of attendees in meetings to 300. So we understand this is going to help to address more scenarios in the classroom. And on the right-hand side, of course, you see some screenshots, how the new meeting experience looks like. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, but the new meeting experience, the control bar moves to the top right. And that's where you're going to basically have all the control to mute, turn your video, share, and you see here large gallery and together mode showing up already at the bottom screenshot. Now, thinking about two of those options, bookings, we're going to have a session about bookings, so I'll be fast, but basically the ability to bring the application in Teams and manage a schedule, a staff schedule. So the examples you're going to see later today around office hours, tutorials, mentoring, for if we have medical centers joining us today as well, this is something you could use even to help with consultation. So there's a lot of different scenarios we can address using bookings. And finally, going back to my previous example, Go One, that's the SCORM, right? This is just one example. You don't need to be using SCORM, but if you're evaluating or using Go One, it's likely we would recommend that application. But basically, if you see at the bottom screenshot, and I'm sorry, I guess it's low resolution here, but basically what we did is adding a learning tab into my class to bring relevant content to that class. And here we're bringing a video from Khan Academy. So again, think about what you're using today outside of Teams and evaluate if that's available for you inside Teams so you can really connect everything and have everything in a single place. I'll go a little bit deeper on this one here. I have a short video to talk to you about what's available in Class Insights for analytics focus on educators. So hopefully you have seen this before. If not, the idea is in a class team, if you click on add a tab, the plus button over there, you search for insights. You're going to add this application into your class, like assignments and grades. And when you have the app, you'll be able to basically visualize how students are engaging or not engaging in your class. So you see digital activity over there. You can see by student, by time, when they were actually doing something. If you hover over, you'll be able to see, hey, they're working on this document, they're working on this assignment, they joined the class. So you have really visibility of how they are engaging your class. We can also show how the communication activity is happening. So you can see the top students helping each other, perhaps asking more questions and react and help them if necessary. So you have visibility around communication. And basically here you can filter. So for instance, you can see what's going on in all channels or specific channels as well. You can also filter this by student, so you don't need to see the whole class. If you want to go a little bit in detail to see how one specific student is working in the class, you can visualize this here. And finally, you can see the activities. And I'm going to pause here for a second, the video. Let me just go back. I want you to see one thing. Yeah, there you go. So you can see activities. You can have everything consolidated, or you can see everything around communication, basically messages, files, time they're spending on files, time they're spending on assignments. And we just added a new option here, a new activity around meetings, basically online classes, so you'll be able to see that. Final comment here, the three metrics here in the middle, average grade, on-time assignments, average time for feedback, they are related to how you're using assignments, the assignments app and grades app. So they're all integrated. If you're using those apps, you're going to see data here as well. And the first step, especially after the pandemic, first question we got from a lot of schools and universities, how do we bring everyone online? And the second question was, how do I know if this is working? And Insights is definitely one step towards that answer. Okay, what's coming soon? We heard you loud and clear. Breakout rooms, we're working on it. Expectation, this is coming now in Q4. We're testing this right now. We also are about to release, actually, student lobby. We have this option for student lobby. Basically, the teacher, the meeting organizer will be able to get in, and students will wait in the lobby until the teacher lets them in. So today, this is available for educators, but you do this, let's say, class by class, meeting by meeting. What's coming? It's the control for the IT team, so they can define this school-wide, university-wide, so you don't need to do this at every time you're joining your class. We're also bringing the ability to hard audio mute everyone. So basically, you're mute your students, and they won't be able to come out of mute. They will be able to ask to come out of mute, and then you decide whether or not that's going to happen. So we're working on that as well. We have announced also an app, going back to my examples again, called Reflect, that helps us to understand student well-being and check the pulse and understand how their mental health is doing given everything that's going on. So this will give educators more visibility on how students are doing. We will have the ability only also for organizers to start meetings, and that includes chat as well. So students won't be able to join the chat before and after the meeting. We are improving class insights, so we understand the need around class insights. As I mentioned, we are evolving that, adding capabilities, expanding beyond teachers, because now that everyone is either online, hybrid, how do we make sure students are engaged? How do we make sure faculty is also basically working as expected, running the schedule? So this will give more visibility over time. You're going to see a lot of new features coming into the new Insights app. And I don't know if you've seen that, but we also updated Whiteboard, so giving additional controls to teachers, giving the ability to add sticky notes and text, so expanding a bit the scenarios we address in the classroom. aka.ms/Teams.edu July will give you basically all the summary. We announced a lot of things that either are available, we are rolling out, or are coming soon. Okay, key takeaways from the session. First, Teams as that hub, connecting everyone. And because of that, it can be used for multiple scenarios, multiple use cases. So think about using a single tool in the classroom, but a single tool, the same tool when I'm talking about professional development, and when I'm doing my research, and when I'm working with my peers, putting together a budget for the next year, putting together grant applications, working on reviewing curriculum. So the same tool for all these different scenarios. We believe this brings a lot of value. And finally, Teams also has that platform, connecting everything. So here, I encourage you to find one app you're already using and bring that app into Teams and see what it looks like. And basically enrich the experience with your students, with your peers, and start bringing those other apps using the Teams App Store.
Let's jump into it. This session is really all around synchronous teaching with Microsoft Teams. So how do we then start to, for those who are new, because I appreciate we do have a lot of people that have been using Teams for less than 3 months or 3 months to 1 year, I'll do a quick overview of the user interface. And you'll notice when you clicked on the link for the event files, this is where we also have the link, and then you can download the PowerPoint slides and even this quick handy get started guide. But at its core, on the left-hand side, every team is really where you have then the opportunity to invite students or colleagues to a team, and it's how you create that team that defines the scenario that you use it in. You'll notice, for example, here we are using our physical science class, and we have our project team. This is where we have now channels, and this is where channels give you structure. Every channel has a conversation space to post a message. It has a file space, and this is really, you can think of it how we then split up our team to have then clear areas for us to communicate and to collaborate on different topics. So this is where we might have a channel per week of content. We could have a channel per student group. We could have a channel for research projects where we might have the grant submission process. When we move across then to looking in the top center of the screen, every channel has tabs. These are the apps you have within the team. And within the class team, by default, you'll have always the post space to post a message and files. And you'll notice then a few tabs are pre-pinned. And then these are what we talk about for the templates. So things like the class team and assignments. You'll notice we then also have the ability to then have more apps that we can add. And that's why we saw SGS, for example, add in Stream, where they had a video library for their students to be able to view on-demand learning resources. If we then move across to the center of the screen, when we're in the posts section, so this is where we post messages and we can have conversations. This is now where I can then have a really rich conversation space, not just text, but we can embed and share files. We can embed and share apps. And at that bottom center of the screen is really where it all starts and where the magic happens, where we can have these discussions, where we can go through and format our messages. And from that 3-dot ellipsis, we can then do things like adding new capabilities to the message like polls. And Alan will come back to that a little bit later on because it's a wonderful feature that we can then take and use. Now, of course, I would strongly encourage you to make sure that you have Microsoft Teams also on your mobile device. So just head on over to the App Store to be able to get access to that. And so this is where from the App Store itself, you have access to then also the app bar. And so this is where we have the app bar. We've moved to the bottom of the screen because, of course, on a phone, this is where it is slightly a different user interface because it is, of course, a smaller device. And then we can always slide up from the bottom of the screen and then go through and then also have access to those other apps and also use unique things like the camera on the phone, which is great if you think about, say, within colleges, I've seen it being used by mechanics to share students who might be doing, say, learning about how to rebuild an engine, being able to take a photo and show a demonstration of learning. Okay, now one of the questions I do get asked, today we are going to be using a class team, which is something that was part of the recommended or required, I should say, setup for our event today. But one of the things that you will see here is as we go through, we have also other team types. Now, if you can't create your own team, that means your IT admin has blocked this for you. And particularly within colleges and universities, we recommend that you should be able to self-create teams as required. So this is a good conversation to have with your IT department if you are seeing team creation is blocked for you. And next week, we have sessions for IT admins where we can show how they can allow you to create your own teams when required, while still meeting their governance and security needs. But just to do a quick overview of the 4 different team types, this is where we do have then classes, PLC, professional learning community, staff team, and the other team. Really the difference between these different teams at its core is the apps that are pinned. And so you can think about this as really the apps that come pre-pinned to the team, which is where it shifts. So the class team, for example, has a OneNote class notebook. It has the assignments app. It has the gradebook app. It has a few different settings. So for example, students cannot leave the team, only you can remove them. And you can also mute students in the conversation space. Now, if we move across to PLC or staff team, no longer it doesn't make sense for us to be able to refer to each other as students when we are now colleagues. And this is where what we see here is the apps change that are pinned to the team. So we go, really the difference here is OneNote, the OneNote app. So we'll see in a PLC, we have a OneNote PLC notebook. Within a staff team, we have the OneNote staff notebook. Now, this is a bit of a quick one. The staff team and the staff notebook are designed if you are a staff leader and you have staff members reporting to you. So you can see their school administration and development. Really, most people will want the other type for all other scenarios where if you want to work together with other colleagues on a research project, if you're working with other colleagues on an internal project for, say, marketing or curriculum planning, if you're not a staff leader and you don't need to have a staff notebook where you're coaching other staff members, the other team type is the one that you'll want to pick for most situations if you're not teaching a class, because it has the least templating of the apps. In terms of the team's limits, this is where we have, and you'll see this is public information, so you can just go to the URL, teams limits, and then you can see all of this and more. A single team can have up to 10,000 members, but keep in mind the apps within the teams. Now, if you are needing to use the class team, specifically the assignments app and the OneNote class notebook app, right now that has a limit of 200 students. So this means you cannot have, say, 500 students currently in a class and then assign assignments to 500 students. And I'll come to that in a moment. Yes, we are actively looking and working on making the assignments limit bigger. But if you are looking to use the assignments in the class notebook, you do need to have students in groups of 200 or less. Online meetings can support 300 people, and Teams Alive events can support up to 10,000. Well, what about large classes with more than 200 students, you might be asking? Great question. Think of it like you have your lectures today. We have lecture theatres and then tutorials. So this is where we move from a large singular place into then a space where we break the students into smaller groups. And that's exactly what you can do. And that's what we see teams being done today, is you create a single large team for everyone in the cohort or in the course. And then if you are looking to use assignments, this is where we see the students being broken into their tutorial groups, where they then have, say, a class team of 200 or less when they are using the assignments service. So of course you can still have large singular teams with more than 200 students, but if, and I repeat, if you are using assignments and the class notebook, that's where it does need to be with 200 or less, and we are working to increase that limit in the future. So let's think a bit now about synchronous sessions with Microsoft Teams. When it comes to online meetings, this is where we really have 3 parts in the model for effective online meetings. And what this means is before, during, and after that online session. So we have, think about the setup to get ready for your online class or lecture. Then during the online synchronous session, so delivering your teaching to students. And then after, having students have access to on-demand material, being able to continue to collaborate in that virtual class space, and continuing to have conversations in the context of the course. This is really the model I would encourage you to think about for any synchronous session, the work to prepare before it, delivering during, and then what happens afterwards. So if we think about the Microsoft Teams user interface, we can then schedule an online meeting to prepare before from the calendar. The calendar allows you to then go through and click new meeting. And one of the things that's very useful about an ad hoc meeting, and this is, and I'll talk about the difference in just 2 seconds, is an ad hoc meeting is when you click new meeting, this is a one-off meeting. And you'll notice for this, you can also invite anyone with their email address. So that means you can then invite external people just by typing in their email address, whether it's Outlook or Gmail, and it's free for those people to join. By comparison, when we have a class team, one of the things that is a best practice is to schedule a channel meeting. This invites your entire class to an online meeting. And what this does is it has a series of benefits. And you'll notice instead of typing in attendees and having to type in 30 or 200 student names, I can then just invite the channel from, in this example, my business studies, and we can go to our week 1 entrepreneurship. So what's the difference, you might be asking? Well, the difference is that a Teams meeting is the ad hoc meetings, for example, are a one-off. So only the people invited to that meeting will get access to it. Now, for anyone today that is using the Microsoft Teams LMS integration with, say, Moodle, Canvas, or Blackboard, that's just a one-off meeting invite, which means it sends and provides a meeting invite that students can click on the link. But because it's not part of a class team, if a student doesn't attend the meeting live, they don't get to see the recording. They cannot continue to see the conversation. And this is why it's different, because think of it as a meeting that's on a one-off island versus a meeting that's part of a large class team that is a persistent space for those students to interact. And this is where channel meetings are really important, and it's why it's so valuable and important for you to have a class team set up to complement your VLE. And I'll come back to that later on today. Once you've scheduled a meeting, this is where it's must, with today's importance on making sure we have safe and secure meetings, that you set the meeting options. And so when we set the meeting options, this is where you'll notice once you've scheduled the meeting from the calendar, you will then have the meeting options appear when you go back and open the meeting. And this is where when I click on meeting options, I can then go through and then I can manage who can bypass the lobby, and I can manage who can present, which means if you select everyone, everyone can present, so students and your colleagues. Or if I set it to only me, this means that only myself as the presenter can start the recording. Only myself as the presenter can stop the recording. Only myself as the presenter can then, for example, share my screen, and it means students cannot mute me. And so this is why it's so important to make sure that you are setting your meeting options appropriately for your meeting, because there are many opportunities where you do want students to share their screen. You do want students to share what they're working on and to demonstrate their learning. But this is why we have those options, so you can then decide on how you're delivering that synchronous session to best meet the needs of that session. So there are absolutely times where you will want students to be able to present, and there will also be times where you do not want them to present, and that's up to you and how you deliver your session itself. If we think about then also before our session, we should always use that file section, and the class materials folder you'll notice from the general channel is read only. So any materials you put into the class materials folder means students can view it, but they cannot edit it. So this is great to share pre-reading, so lecture slides, for example, or worksheets. And it gives students an opportunity to prepare for your class and your synchronous session by then having a single place that they can access files as well. And the last part that we need to do before any online meeting is go to settings and double check our device, particularly if you have, say, multiple monitors. Make sure that you have your headset is ready to go, and then you can even do make a test call that everyone can hear you. All right, so we've now scheduled a meeting from the calendar. We've clicked on new meeting. We've added some guests, or we've added our class team as a channel meeting. Now, how do we go to during? So during a meeting, this is where we're now delivering a synchronous session with our students. And so during that session, this is where we have the user interface in the meeting itself. You'll notice across the center of the screen, this is where we have the ability to turn on your video feed, to be able to turn that on and off, to be able to unmute yourself. And let me just quickly change my slides there so we can see that a little bit easier. You have the ability then to go through and then share your screen and sounds from your computer. So that's how I've been sharing audio, for example, of the videos. I can go through, and from the 3-dot ellipsis, this is where I can start a recording. I can then manage closed captions. I can also end the meeting for my students. And then on the right-hand side here, this is where we can raise our hand, so students can raise their hand when they've got a question. We can send chat messages during the meeting, which Alan will come more to during his session. And this is also, of course, the big red hang up button is where we leave. Last but not least, the add participants to meeting is where I can see my current live attendees, and I can also check the attendance report from that people panel. So what this means now is if we head on through, I can then see from the people panel, this is where I can mute all students. So if someone is being disruptive, I can mute them. And remember, if you've set yourself to the presenter, students cannot mute you. I can then go through and see in real time the number of attendees that I have. I can also, when I've started my started my meeting, from that 3-dot ellipsis that I was referring to before, I can then click start recording. I can then also turn on live captions. So this is a student, they can come in and turn on live captions if they choose to have it. They can set their background blur if they're joining with video, or if you're joining with video, I'd always recommend, it's a good thing for privacy, that if you are in a particularly shared space, to turn that on. And then this is where we now have the ability to also share. And this is one of the best parts about the share experience within Teams, is you have the opportunity to share different things. So we can share our desktop. So that's everything on my desktop. And that includes then, think about this as using it, not just say a PowerPoint slide, but if you're showing someone how to use coding, for example, in Visual Studio, if you're teaching someone to use Photoshop, anything on your desktop, other people will see, and you can even include system audio. If you don't want to risk an email popping up during the session, this is where we would share just the window. So let's imagine I have a Word document open that I'm taking the students through my exam, for example, some practice questions or a worksheet. If I share just the window, students will not see any other windows that are open as part of my desktop. So a great way to secure that only the thing that you want students to see will be shown. So it's a good one. Also, if you've got a messy desktop, just share the window. We can then share PowerPoint. Now, the PowerPoint share allows the students to be able to navigate through the slides. And so this is useful if you want them to be able to see the slides you're presenting, and they can also go back a slide without changing your view, which is really nice if I want students to be able to then, for example, keep up or maybe go back. And lastly, we have the whiteboard. So if I go across the whiteboard itself, this is where we have the opportunity, and the whiteboard will be talked a bit more about during Alan's session itself. All right, so during the meeting, it's activity time. And this is where we have now a chance, because I appreciate I've been sharing a bit of information around how to do these online meetings and how to schedule it. We're going to talk a little bit about preparing before and then during. So you now have 2 tasks, and I'm going to set the timer up here for 5 minutes. And the 2 tasks that I'll be asking you to do is to go back to Teams on your side and to go to the calendar, and from the calendar do 2 things. Task 1 is to create an ad hoc meeting with anyone. So this is where you can invite a colleague, so a friendly colleague who you might want to practice this with. But one thing I would practice is inviting an external user to a Teams meeting. A great way I practice this is if you have your personal email. So if you have your own at Hotmail or at Gmail, try typing that in and then click send. What this will do is it does not invite your email permanently to the organization. This is not guest access. This is a one-off meeting, and this is exactly how you can then host an online meeting with anyone, whether it's a parent, a research colleague at another institution, a local business startup that you might want to have your students do a guest presentation from. And so task 1 is to do a Teams ad hoc meeting. So remember, start that from the calendar. And task 2 is then to schedule a separate meeting. So you'll be doing a different meeting. And now you'll be going through and do a channel meeting. So go through, click the class team that you have for today's session and schedule a meeting in your general channel. And then I'll show you how to use meeting options. Now, this is a learning experience, so I'm going to start for 5 minutes. And then don't worry if you feel lost or you're like, hang on a second, Dominic, how do I do this from the calendar? I'll be showing you how to do all of this in 5 minutes. So go ahead now and please change view on your side to actually creating both task 1 and a meeting, and then task 2, a channel meeting. And then I'll show you how to do both of those in 4 minutes and 35 seconds. All right, so let me jump into it and share a view of how we can then do task 1 and task 2. And I'll pause the timer there just to give everyone a few extra moments to be able to see then what this actually looks like. So heading over into Teams, this is where we now have the calendar. So task 1 is to create an ad hoc meeting. So by going to the calendar, this is where I can head across and I can then click on new meeting. As a quick tip, you can also click on the time that you want to be able to then schedule the meeting. And remember, we also can then view not just this week, but we can then also view any week through the calendar. What's wonderful about this is the same calendar as your Outlook calendar. It's all part of Exchange Online. And what this means is because it's an Exchange Online, you don't have 2 different calendars. Anything that's appearing in Outlook will appear here and vice versa. This is the great part about Office 365 working together. So I'm going to set a project review meeting for 8:30 a.m. So when I go down here and click on 8:30, we'll call this project review. And remember, this is the ad hoc meeting. So this is a one-off meeting, not in the context of a class. And I've got an external colleague who I want to invite to this. So this is where I could invite, for example, colleagues, and I can then invite colleagues if I just type their name. But if I want to invite someone external, I simply type in their email address. It can even be a Gmail, Yahoo, at Outlook, at Hotmail. And then I just click on here, invite Jamie Orton at Gmail. And then I can just say, hi, let's meet to review the project. Regards. And so, of course, you'd normally add a bit of a longer description, but just in the interest of time. And this is where we can, of course, check our time. So we've got 8:30 till 9 a.m. So this is where I could make it a longer meeting. I can also then do, for example, a repeat. So if this was maybe a weekly meeting, and then I just click on send. What's lovely about this is what that will do there is we'll see here that's now in my calendar. Now, because that's now been added to my calendar, this will appear, of course, both in Outlook, and this will also then appear within the view of my, of course, then Teams itself calendar. So this is where if I head on over to Gmail, I can then see, because Jamie is external, I can then go across and there we go. What I just did there is I sent an email as Ken Meyer, who is my example account, to Jamie, project review, And anyone then can click this link here that's been invited, and they can go through and then join this Teams meeting for free. So it is free for external people to join this one-off meeting. And remember, I have not added Jamie to my tenant. This is not adding him as a guest to a team. This is just a one-off meeting, and Jamie does not need to have access to Teams. He can then just click this and then join a one-off meeting. All right, that was quite easy. Hopefully you'll agree. Now let's schedule an online class for my students. We're going to now schedule a 10 a.m. morning class. And so this is where we're going to call this one, let's say this is week 3 online class. Now, I don't want to have to type in 20, 30, 100 student names. So this is why having a class team is so wonderful. I'm going to go down and click on Add Channel. Notice here, all of my teams appear. And what this means is I can now go through and I'll take my science, S114 science class, and we're going to set our channel of week 3. So channels then also allow you to have the conversation, to have the online meetings in context. And so this is where we're going to talk about, say, climate systems in this channel. And so this will automatically invite all students. And of course, normally I'd recommend adding a slightly longer description, but this is where, just for the sake of today, I'm just doing a really quick brief one. And this is all we need. I've left add location blank because we don't have a lecture theatre or a classroom. So if we had a hybrid learning scenario, I could include also the room name in addition to the Teams meeting. And then I'll click send. So what you'll notice here is this is then going to send this out to the students. Because this is a channel meeting, it takes just a tad longer to send this out to all students. So while that's being scheduled, it'll just take a few seconds. Like any good cooking show, we'll go back to the one that we were working on earlier. And once the meeting has been scheduled, this is where we have those very important meeting options. So when you click on meeting options, what you'll notice is from that I can go through and then I can go here, and now for my project review, I can then select who can then bypass the lobby. I can also select other settings. And one of my top ones I would recommend is if you are delivering a class to let's say this is an online class to 30 students or more, and you don't want them to be able to interrupt you, you don't want them to share their screen, make sure you go down here. And if you're teaching with a colleague, you could specify that colleague to present. Or in this example, I want to give my colleagues the update. I don't want them to be able to present their screen. When I click save, what this has now done is set my meeting options, meaning only me as the presenter can record, can share my screen, and just like that, nice and easy to do. So those meeting options are very important. And we can see here, now if we go to week 3, again, this is where we have the opportunity to change those meeting options. And if we schedule this weekly as a recurring meeting, we only need to do this once. Now you might be saying, well, where does that appear? Well, nice and easily, it also sends and puts a message into my science class, so S114, in addition to the calendar. You'll notice that we have also that appears within the channel that it's been scheduled in. And when I click on it, it makes it easy for my students to be able to join just by clicking that join link. And that is how we have now been able to then, before our synchronous session, and then prepare for during. Now, this is where we're going to say during that online class, how do we get feedback from students? And that's where I'm going to pass over to my colleague, Alan, who will take over for the next session. So this is where I'll invite Alan to share his screen and to share his audio. And I will go over here and go to the last slide, which is then during. A question from Alan, just while he's about to share his presentation. Why can't some people see a calendar? So that means your organization has not yet moved to Exchange Online. So this is where you will need to then either look at using Outlook, or, for example, going through and have a chat with your IT department. So this is something that online meetings does need to be enabled, but it is free and available for you.
Thanks, Dominic.
All right, over to you, Alan.
Thank you very much. Dominic, I'm not going to share my calendar. There's a few people who have said that things were a little bit small. My video, sorry. A few people have said that things were a little bit small, so I thought if I didn't share my video, it might be a tiny bit bigger for
Sounds
some.
good.
So take some feedback on that from everyone as we work our way through this. So as Dominic said, we've just set up the way that you can have that initial meeting. And part of this session that we're going to talk about is the approach to effective online meetings and how meetings should be so much more than just connecting initially with everyone, and how we can use it in a way that will really help us get some feedback from those students when we're delivering and see exactly what's going on. And the first thing I want to do is to show you a little bit like Dominic did earlier, how one of the people that we've been doing a lot of work with, Jill Holden from Newcastle University, is using Teams and polls, in particular Polly here as one of the apps within courses within Newcastle. So I'm just going to play the quick Flipgrid video that Jill has created for us here.
Hello, my name is Jill Holden, and in this Microsoft Teams scenario, I am going to demonstrate how I'm using Microsoft Teams for a group work module with undergraduate students. The reason I'm using Teams in my group work module is to enhance the student learning experience. Teams allows students to work collaboratively on files, to share information and plan and manage their project over a period of time. The second reason is to improve engagement in group work. The use of Teams enables students who may be shy or for whom English is not their first language to fully engage with the module without feeling disadvantaged in group meetings. The final reason is that the use of Teams develops students' digital skills so that they are ready for the future of work. They learn to communicate, they learn how to use the tools in Teams, and they learn how to manage themselves and their teammates in a collaborative online environment. Prior to the start of the academic year, we set up two teams. We set up the teaching team, whereby the staff on the module could collaborate on the teaching materials, and we set up a team for the module that all the students would be added to, where we could share information about the module and we could communicate and students could communicate with us. At the start of the module, we put the students into groups and they attended a workshop in the computer cluster. This meant that if they hadn't already met up, this was their opportunity to do so. It also meant that they could set up their group team and gain experience in using Teams all at the same time. You can see here that Group 13 have set themselves up and made use of the emojis and GIFs. We encourage them to do so and explore the different facilities within Teams. This group were assigned the company Marstons and have set up a channel to add information about the company. They've also added the Planner app and will go on to add the milestones and key dates and tasks that they want to assign to their team members. As you can see here, the group members of Team 13 have started to add their documents to the team. They've also added links so that each other can read them and they can all ensure that they are accessing the same information. As you can see here, they added folders for each section of the report. They started with a draft operating environment and right through until their final copy of their report and their presentation, which they presented to us. If we return to the module team for a moment, you will see that it is not all work and no play. Although this team is used to disseminate teaching and assessment material, you will see that apps like Polly can be used to gain student opinion on things connected with the module. And it can also be used for a bit of fun, as we'll see in a minute. Here you can see that we have given students feedback on the pre-assessment clinics. In these clinics, each group presented and provided some written work. They then received feedback from staff, and they also worked in their groups to peer review each other's work and give each other feedback. Following these clinics, I used the Polly app to find out if the clinics were helpful to the students. If we click on View All Results, we can see what they said. So we can see here that the 76% of the students in the poll felt that the clinics were either helpful or extremely helpful. That's very useful to us as a teaching team. Here you can see that just before Christmas we had a little bit of fun and we ran a poll to see whether the students thought Yorkshire pudding should be included in Christmas dinner or not. A couple of students didn't ask what a Yorkshire pudding was, so I'll provide them with a recipe. But the majority said that yes, they should be included, and I have to say I tend to agree with them. I would like to summarise by saying that Teams has made it so much easier for my students to work and learn collaboratively, and at the same time we know that they are developing digital and communication skills that will prepare them for the future of work. It also has made our lives easier as a teaching team to manage the module and to manage student groups. But I will leave the final word to one of my students. A quote here from Dominic Hayes, accounting and finance student. He was in the second year last year, and he said that in terms of group work, I think that there is not much that you could improve. It made such a difference. My name is Jill Holder. I'm a lecturer in accounting at Newcastle University Business School, and I can be contacted at jill.holden@ncl.ac.uk and also via LinkedIn. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.
Thanks very much to Jill there for taking us through how she's using some of her polls within her student lessons there, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And as Dominic said a little bit earlier, we're talking about what you're going to now do during your delivery when you're talking to attendees or you're holding another meeting in any way, shape or form. We often talk to people about how you might want to share some of your content. And it's really important to note that there's actually 4 different ways of being able to share your content or things you would like to share within there. And one of those we're going to touch on a little bit later in terms of whiteboarding. When you are sharing, obviously then you will hover over the meeting that you're having, and you'll see that this bar will pop up, your meeting bar will pop up, and the red square around there shows that this is how to open what's called your share tray. And when you open your share tray, you will see that it brings up a black box with a number of different things in it, starting first of all with your desktop on the left hand side. And with your desktop you can include your system audio. And the system audio button is just normally above the desktop area there on the top left hand side. So you click that so that then you can include your system audio, a little bit like we've done when we've shared the videos out of our PowerPoints today. And that one is really, really useful when you know you need to switch between multiple windows or apps. So it allows you to switch what is currently on view to something else without having to stop sharing, as some people do if they share just the window. So when you share just the window, you can again include your system audio, but this is really when you only want to share one thing and you want to keep the rest of the screen to yourself. So you might choose to just share a particular window if you've got a couple of things open. If you have multiple monitors, you can share different desktops if you want to, so it makes life easier for you to use. You can share a PowerPoint. And this is when you need to share a presentation and you want students to be able to move through the slides at their own pace. Notice that's the difference between sharing a window. If you share the window with a PowerPoint, you are in control of that PowerPoint all the time. If you share the PowerPoint, students have the option to move through those slides at their own pace. You do have the option to lock them to your view, your particular view, as the question was asked earlier on, and you can do that and make sure that they stay with you as the presenter. And last but not least, you've got the option to use the whiteboarding. And there are a couple of ways that you can do that. One is to use the Microsoft whiteboard, and one of them is to use the Envision one that we're going to talk a little bit about later on, so that then we can use that particular program. So if we were to use something like the whiteboard, you can see it here, we've highlighted it, still in the share tray. You can click on Microsoft Whiteboard, and if many of you are familiar with that, the great Windows 10 app as well that you can use, as well as whiteboarding in there. You can also use something like Freehand by Envision. So the outline below is using our whiteboard, and we're going to talk about how we can use Freehand Envision just a little bit later on. If we are working during this particular meeting and we're talking to people, we'll know that we need to have that visibility of the chat and know what's going on. But we can also do so much more as well. So not only can we see the chat, which as you work your way up, again, hovering over your meeting link, you can see the chat box, but you can also now see when people are raising their hands. And as people raise their hands, the little counter in the people area there will go up, and you would see that somebody has raised their hand. By then clicking on that, you'll get the view below where you can see that there's currently 4 people in this meeting and Ashley has her hand raised. Now, as the owner of that meeting, I can actually then put down Ashley's hand after speaking to her and lower her hand. If more than one person raises their hand, Teams will order it by the person that raised their hands first. So I think that's really important to remember, that you're able to see from there that multiple people have their hands raised. I also used it the other day when I was in a session with people. I said, raise your hands, all those people who have done X. And out of the 40 people that were there, 33 of them raised their hands to show me that they'd done this before. So I knew roughly that 7 people hadn't done it or didn't understand it. So it was a really nice, simple way of checking exactly what was going on within our team. But we have our meeting chat, and we're going to talk in a moment about how we can add more things to our meeting chat and make it that little bit more interactive, which I think, again, is one of those things that's really important for us to be able to use. So during our meeting, we can now actually run polls with students. So from that meeting chat that we've just highlighted, and here I can see the meeting chat, you will have 3 dots available to you, and those 3 ellipses or 3 dots are always something that shows that you've got more options. So wherever you can find that in Teams, you know that you've got more options of things that you can look at. When I click on those 3 options, I will see some apps that will appear, and here are a couple that we're going to focus on, one being Forms and number 2 being Poly. So we're going to have a look at how both of those can help us create a form or a poll within our meeting, within our chat from within that meeting, live as we're moving along. So as we go then to our right hand side where we've got this meeting chat, having clicked on Forms from the 3 dots, it's going to say to me, what would you like to ask it? So we can construct our question like we would normally do when we're in our normal conversations in Teams. We can construct our question from within there and create that. And then it will go away and it will create from within our chat in line this actual question. So Cara Coleman's created the poll. The results are visible to everyone and names are recorded in this particular poll that's been created. And it's the question said there, what do you think is the most important quality of an entrepreneur? Innovative, leadership, future focus. And then you get your percentages like Jill was showing from Poly, actually with Forms as well. So once we get to that point and we've started to do all of the things we need to do, we've shared our content, we've had our conversations, we've run polls to check whether people are understanding what we're talking about, we've got to start thinking about getting towards the end of our meeting. And there are a number of different things that we can do that Dominic touched on earlier to allow us to think about ending our meeting. Before we get to the end, and this bit is really important, if you want to export the attendance, you need to go over to the Teams meeting. You would need to click on the people area again that we're hovering over, and you will see the down arrow that I'm now circling with my mouse on the screen here, and it will allow you then to download the attendance of people that have come into the meeting. An example of which is just next to this, so we can see full name, we can see user action, and we can see the timestamp. We can see that Ashley joined at 9:18 in the morning and Ashley left at 9:30. We can see that Cara joined and Douglas joined and Douglas then left. So we get that join and that leave information that's really important to us. So we can export that attendance. Somebody asked, can you actually change your meeting options when you're live in the meeting? So Dominic went through making people attendees. Just next to your download of attendance, you'll notice the tick and the cross. If you were to click on that, that would allow you to promote somebody to a presenter if they are an attendee, so then they could share their screen if you wanted to. So worthwhile just picking out that for a moment. We would then want to stop recording the meeting. So the order you do these in is not so important until you get to end meeting. So you could stop the recording, then you could export your attendance, or you could export your attendance and then stop the recording. And it's nice to kind of say to everyone, I'm just going to stop the recording now so everybody knows that that's when it's stopping. And then we would look at the end meeting button. So by ending that meeting, you're then signifying to everyone that we've finished and you're pushing them all out of the meeting, and that meeting will then close so that other people are not in it. As we go through this just a little bit further, we would then want to keep looking at the conversation responses. So we'll know that from our meeting that we might generate more conversations. I've got conversations that appeared from within the meeting. The recording was then stopped, and then that recording appears within my meeting. So nobody has to go and rush and look for it. It's already there, and I can start to watch it later on. And I can see sometimes some of the people that have been in it by the faces that are there, so then we can get access to it. We can access those meetings directly from the meeting tab at the top if you want to, and you can see each of the different meeting options when you go into that. And we can also then start to work our way through that transcript. So you can look for when the word feedback appears, for example, and I can see here because that transcript's being created, it's picking up the audio of when positive feedback was mentioned at that particular time. And it will give you this timestamp so you can jump backwards and forwards through those and work your way through them. We know that Microsoft Teams saves directly to Microsoft Stream, and we'll be talking a bit about that tomorrow, but it's just to know that those recordings are uploaded to the channel, automatic closed captions and searchable transcript in the supported language that are currently available. And for education, we need to know that Microsoft Stream is free and we can host up to 500,000 total videos, and it's 50 GB per video that you're able to then upload at that particular time. And as we mentioned, we've got a bit more going on about Stream tomorrow, so please come and join that session so we can talk a little bit more about that. So as we're getting that student feedback, or we want some more student feedback, we can make sure that we go and use things like Poly and Forms again. Again, making sure we click on the 3 dots so that we can start to create the Poly or the form. Both work in exactly that same way to create them, and we'll go through how we can do some of those in a moment. And last but not least, it's about then finishing your meeting and then starting to think about, okay, what can I do with my conversations now? So you can mute students' comments about a particular post that you want to put up there. So it's making sure that you click on the formatting button of the post that you're going to do, and it allows you to choose that only you and moderators can reply as opposed to everyone. If you leave it as everyone in the team can come back to you. If you click that, then it is shut off for reply. So it's a little bit like making a statement, if you want, that you don't want people to come back to. If you wanted to mute the conversation for the entire team, you'd go into your manage team area by clicking on the 3 ellipses next to the team name, and then you would go and you would click on the mute students button. You have the option to mute all students, or you have the option to mute particular students if you would want to, in terms of how those comments work. So really powerful, gives you a lot of information, a lot of chance to work in a way that you would like to work. So as we go now to think about our tasks, very similar to as Dominic did before, and I know lots of people have asked about the timer, so I will post the link to the site where I got the timer from. It's actually a video file, and so then you can use it and you can get different lengths of timers for that one. But it's quite a nice little find. I was quite happy when we found something we could use for that. But we've got a couple of activities for you to do. I'm going to give you 5 minutes initially to get started with those, and then we're going to walk through, first of all, with a video, and then secondly, about using the Poly app to give some feedback. So task number 1, start the channel meeting that you created, and from that chat space, create a multiple choice poll using forms. Task number 2, do the same during the same meeting, create an anonymous poll using Poly app to create that anonymous poll. For some of you who've used this before, this is going to be fairly straightforward. For those that haven't, we're going to start the timer and let people start looking at how they can do that, and then I will do a quick walkthrough of how we can do those. Okay, I'll leave you to get on. Okay, everyone, that's our 5 minutes up for there. So what I'm going to do now is bring up my team there that we are working on, and then take a quick look at the content that we have in what we are looking at now. So it asks you to start your channel meeting, as I don't have a channel meeting here right at this very minute. So I'm just going to do a quick meet now, and I'm just going to block using my microphone and my camera in this instance because we don't want to get any feedback or anything else. And I'm just going to start this meeting. So the meeting has started. There's only me currently.
Alan, just to confirm, you're sharing your slides at the moment?
Oh, sorry, Dominic. Thank you very much.
Yep, you'll want to switch on over to your desktop.
Yep, 2 seconds. Sorry, everybody.
Looking good.
That should be working now.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you, Dominic. Sorry about that, everyone. So I'm running a meeting here, as you can see, and there's only me in here. But I'm going to jump over to the conversation area, and this is where we're
across and invite Ken, and then I can join you.
Okay. I'll invite you in. 2 seconds.
So this is a good example from the people panel. This is where you can also request for people to join. So it's always a nice handy tip whenever you need colleagues or students to join the meeting.
Thank you, Ken. It's Ken. Thanks very much, Ken. So Ken's now in our conversation. So I'll open up that chat panel and we can see, and I'll just say, hi at Ken. And I'll just post that to Ken. So I'm just saying a quick hello to Ken, and hopefully Ken might reply whilst we're doing this. And then I will click on my 3 dots down here at the bottom corner. And by doing that, we're then going into the messaging extensions. And there are a few apps that we can choose from here. And the first one we talked about was doing forms. So now I'm going to click on the form. And it's going to ask me what I would like to do. So what is my question? Did the theory make sense? And I'm going to put a question mark after it. You'll notice that it's actually suggesting some options that I can use before we do too much on this, doing some forms tomorrow. But I'm going to add all those options, and then I'm just going to post my question over to the meeting area. I'm just going to go into the meeting chat now. So it's just working its way over. Says he, come on, there we go. And now you can see that I have the form in there, and hopefully shortly Ken will then reply to that form and we'll start to see those results coming through. As the creator of the form, I could also reply, so I could click on maybe if I wanted to and submit my vote, and that is fine. So you can see that I put maybe and Ken has voted then to say yes. So I've got those 2 responses that I can then see from here, and I can see what's happening. Okay. If I wanted to do it slightly differently and I wanted to use Polly, again, I would click on the 3 dots and I would click on Polly. And your task here was to do an anonymous poll. And that means you just need to have a look at some of the options that are available. And you can see that I have the ability to create a poll, and it's a multiple choice one. And I'm going to say, did the theory make sense? Okay, and make sure I spell theory right. Sorry about that. And here it's not actually saying to me, do you want me to put in some answers? I'm just going to put yes and no for this instance, just to speed things up a little bit. I'm not going to let the audience have multiple votes or add choices, but as I come down here, I can see that I can use anonymous or non-anonymous. So I'm going to make it anonymous as we asked. And on this instance, I'm going to show the results in real time. I could not show them at all, so they're only just for me. And I could also only show them after the poll closes if I choose then to make that one of the questions that I want. So I'm now going to preview that, and it's going to show me what my poll looks like. And I'm going to send it over then into our chat in our meeting. There we go, just jumping in there. And my poll was created, and it's going to pop up there. And Ken, in a moment, will make a vote, and we'll see those votes come through in real time. So just waiting there. If not, then I will jump in and I will just put a no and I will submit. Oh, there it goes. It's come through. Yes, 100%. And then I could look at viewing all results, and it will take me over to show me the results that have actually come through, so I can see them in real time, exactly what's happened. If we allowed comments, we could also see that. Notice it's saying who owns it, when it's open, it's anonymous, and when it closes. Okay, so it's really important that it's got those sorts of things that we can time whenever we want to, even from our meeting. So I'm just going to stop my meeting now and say thank you to Ken for joining that. I'm going to hang up, and as I hang up, you'll notice that I will go back and I will be able to see that these polls that we had in that particular meeting are also now available for me to be able to see right here in line in my conversations from that general meeting that we started. So it's kept all that information, and I don't have to worry about where I'm going next to be able to see those things. Okay. There we are. So coming to this session, the third session that we're doing so far, this is all about collaborating during your synchronous teaching. So this is thinking about, okay, we've had a meeting, we're online, we're now starting to collaborate. How can we do some of these things, and what does it look like? So for inside the Microsoft Teams area where Dominic originally showed us just a moment ago, where you're looking at some of those Kahoots, I think it's really important that we understand a little bit about some of the channels that we have there. And it's been some of the questions that we've already been asked is how many channels can you have? All those sorts of things that are really important. And the big tip that we try and think about is think of a channel a bit like a room in your house or a room in the building that you work in. So you go in through that front door into the team, and then you can break out into different rooms or go into different channels, and you can start to have different content within there. And I noticed a number of people were asking what breakout rooms were earlier on. If we get chance, we'll probably talk a little bit more about it, but I'm sure that you can go and find some information on that as well. But each channel, importantly, has a number of different things for us. It has the ability for you to be able to post messages. So when I went and started that Meet Now, I can also start to post messages from there. It has the ability for us to host files within each of those channels. So essentially, the way it's set up at the moment, we've got the general channel, which would have post messages, files and apps. We'd then have the English department channel, where we can also have post messages and have a separate thread about a separate topic completely if we wanted to, and host files that were just, in this instance, related to the English department. And then we have the history department underneath there as well. So you can start to break it out. And you can have numerous different channels within one particular team. So it helps you then start to think about how your team might be put together. So some lecturers like to use week 1, week 2, week 3, for example. Other people like to break it down into different topics or areas they're going to cover on their course, so that you can easily set it up and make it work for you and for the students that you're currently working with. And so we can bring a number of those different apps in that will help us use some of those things as well. So if we think of a channel post and we think about how we have communication and conversation with people, we're at a stage now where our time is really precious to everybody. So actually being communicated with is important to me, that I get the information that I want to see or I need to see. And we can do that in a number of different ways. We can use app mentions to notify individuals. So I can use the @ sign and then start to type somebody's name. And we did that a moment ago where we invited Ken into our meeting. We could do @Ken Mayer and start to talk to Ken. We can do that for a particular channel. So we could do @channel and talk to a particular channel, or we could do it to everyone, where we're going to do that broadest sense of communication, which is the @team. And we get that example across here where we started to type the word team, and then that's resolved to find the team that we're in, B102 Business Studies in this instance, and it shows me that is the whole team that we'll then be talking to. If you then click reply in a channel to respond to a message, that's something that's really important. And quite often when we're doing our training, we'll show people how to write a message, and then we'll say to them, please, can you reply? And it's not done to catch people out, but it's quite often people will start a new conversation instead of replying to a conversation. So it's knowing the difference between the two and what effect it will have. You either have a threaded conversation, as we have for Ken down here, where he said, hi students, for week 1 we'll be meeting online, and then there are 13 replies and you can reply, or you could start a new conversation. There is quite a difference, and it's really important that we try and make sure we do that within the two. We can also, and I think this is something that's really nice, start to tag people. So when you have a team, you may have some smaller groups that need to get particular information. Again, this is helping me become more specific on how I might want to do this. So I might want to create a tag for a group of people where we can give them a particular name. So in this instance, we've created some tags that are called math teachers. So if we wanted to just give some communication to the math teachers, we'd do @math teachers and then type our message. And we know that these 3 people in this instance will get that communication because that is part of their tag. Now, owners are the only people that can set tags. That's really important. You would create the tagged groups so that then you can use those for people, and you can set them up so that they can use them in their own way. And I think that's really important, that we make sure that it's the owners who have the control, and it's the owners who are setting up exactly what is happening when it's happening for you to be able to do that. So chats versus channels, and this is a conversation we get quite a lot. So when do I use a chat or when do I use a channel? And if you think about it, if you need to have a private group chat space, that's the time when you want to be using your chat. So that's an area where you can go and have a conversation with 1, 2, 3, numerous different people that is outside of the team. And again, that's very important because a team is set up in a way that everybody sees everything. And that's what a team should be. If you're going to create a team, you want to invite people in to have a really positive, enriched experience of being able to collaborate with everyone in there. So it's important that you don't have those conversations that should be private within that particular team. If you want everyone to see the post, then you would use your channel. So you would have a channel set up, and it could be that you have a channel that's set up called questions, for example, and then anyone can go in there and ask a question, and hopefully not only people who are lecturing or delivering the content, but also students would want to go in there and make that a rich environment where they can answer things as well and check their own understanding and everything else that they're doing. So it's really important that we make sure we are aware of the differences between those. When we talk about files within the particular areas that we're working in, so here we're in the, as I hover over it, we're in the team, we're in the general channel, and we have posts, and then we have files next to it that's now highlighted. We have a number of different things that we can do with files. So if your file is uploaded to the team, anyone in that team has access to that particular file to go in there and work on it. You can collaborate in real time. So you could open that top Excel sheet and everyone could collaborate on that particular sheet and be able to use it and be able to make changes to it. And those are historically automatically saved. And there is also an element of tracking that will go on in there as well. But it allows you to collaborate real time. And I mean real time with a number of students at any one time. I did a session down at BET a year or so ago, and we had over 100 people collaborating in the one document. I'm not necessarily suggesting that's the best way to do it, but it is possible to be able to have a number of different people collaborating on your document at the right time, doing the same things and making edits. And at the bottom picture there on this particular slide, you can see just a couple of people who are in there. So we've got Marcia Davenport in there and Terry, who are particularly on slide 3. So it will show me where people are and I can keep track of what people are doing as well. When we are talking about delivering, and we talked about the class team, and Dominic mentioned the class team that you might have, you'll notice that in the general channel, there is a folder that's created automatically for you with the class type that's called class materials. That class materials is exactly as it says. It's somewhere where you can put all of the materials for the course, for the upcoming weeks. You can create new folders in there. You can do whatever you want to do with it, but everything that's put in there is read only. So that is your set of materials that you can put in so that students can go in there, they can see the materials, they can open the materials, but they cannot change them exactly where they're shared at that particular point. And that's important so that you know that those materials are going to be the same for every person that goes in and opens it and has access to it. You can also change any file or folder to read only from opening in the SharePoint area. So those of you that are familiar with Teams will know that Teams is a SharePoint site essentially, and you can go into the background and you can open that up and you can start to change some of the permissions. But we won't dwell on that too much, but it's having the ability to be able to add more than one read-only file if you needed to, so that you can change the way that people view it and can access it. If we're talking about collaboration, we're talking about any Office doc outside of the class materials, the student can edit in real time. So that's important. So we're in the week 1 entrepreneurship here area, and we've got a files area open, and we've got startup ideas. And when you open that startup ideas in Teams, you would be able to see that the PowerPoint is there. You can see that it shows you each of the different files, and where we had a couple of people working on slide 3 before, they would show up if they were on slide 3 at that particular time. But I can also, on the top right hand corner, see who's got this particular presentation open. So at the moment, that's telling me that I would be in there, and also Douglas is in there working on that presentation. And I could start to think about what changes Douglas is making, and even then start to think about, right, how can I talk with Douglas on what is happening within this particular document? How can I see what's going on? The history is automatically saved, so you'll know who's made the changes, etc. But I might want to think about how I can have a conversation with him. So we saw there that we're able to click on the conversation panel right next to where Douglas's name was before. And by clicking on that conversation panel, I can strike up a conversation about the particular document that we're in. and it will let me have a chat, very much like we were doing in our meeting where we had that chat. I can have this conversation with others about this document and know that that's going to be stored and tagged next to this document as a conversation when we come to see it. The next bit that we're going to do is have a quick look at collaboration skills within student group work from Caitlin here, who's going to talk a little bit about how they're doing it.
Today I'm going to be showing you how I use Microsoft Teams to manage a group project as a college student. I use Teams because I'm a business student, and so much of my work is group work, so lots of collaboration. And also in the business school, the Microsoft Office suite products are heavily emphasized, so we use lots of Word, PowerPoint, Excel. So it's really great to have them all in one platform. Real-time collaboration, again, tying back to the teamwork, it's really great to be able to be in the same documents as my team members at the same time, and also using Teams for that integrated hub for file sharing, chat, and video calls. This is the homepage of my Teams. As you can see, I use it for lots of different projects, but today I'm going to be walking you through how I use Teams for my management communications course, specifically our client project. Here you can see this is the homepage of my team. It's really nice in the general thread just to see scheduled meetings. I can send out a general message to everyone, and you can see that right here. On the left, there are different channels. So for this class in particular, we have a tab for classwork, which is kind of the separate portion of this course, more centered around career development, and then also the client project. And up top, you can see that there are different tabs. What's great about Teams is that you can customize this to best fit the nature of your project. And so for us, we thought that having files, meeting notes, and assignments would best suit our needs. So this is a visual of me in a meeting with my teammates. As you can see, we are on the same page thanks to screen sharing. Screen sharing is really great because sometimes if you're individually all trying to find the same thing at once, it might not be as efficient. So I like to just share my screen and we can go to my professor's Canvas page and find what we're looking for and be on the same page. Now we're back in files, and this is really great because it's simple to organize content by folder. You can see we have slide decks, deliverables, rubrics, and professor and TA feedback, and also all team members have access to these files. So now I've clicked into slide decks, and for this project, it was really important to have this because we have multiple deliverables throughout the semester, including PowerPoint presentations. So as you can see, we have a variety of slide decks and now we've clicked into one of them. So now we're in PowerPoint. And this is one of the slides we were going to use as a template for our project. We just copy and pasted that over into our own personal document. As you can see, my teammates and I can be in the document at the same time and working on the same slides, which is super helpful when trying to put together our project. So this is the calendar tab, and it's really great because it's easy to schedule meetings, but I'm able to see kind of what I have to do for the day, and it's easy to share meetings with group members from here. Now heading back, it's super simple for me to just shoot a message to my teammates if I have a question about anything, and Teams is really great to have a lot of fun features such as GIFs, or even you can see one of my teammates sent me praise. So now we're back in the page, and now we're going to go into meeting notes. So this is what it looks like if at the end of a meeting, when me and my group members sit here, we kind of go over what needs to be done, the action items, and it's really great because if I forget something, we can just refer back to meeting notes in Teams to see what needs to be done. So this is it outside of a meeting. And going into this, me and my teammates really like to even further the action items and split them into tasks or assignments and delegate them to each of the team members so we can see kind of where everybody's at with progress and whatnot. So it's a really great way to stay organized and keep on track with the timeline of the project. So a little bit about me. I am a sophomore at Washington University in St. Louis. I'm majoring in finance and strategic management, as well as business analytics. I'm very interested in pursuing a career in consulting, but if you have any more questions about how I love using Teams, feel free to contact me. And yeah.
Thanks, Caitlin. So then when we get to think about some of the things that Caitlin was talking about there, Caitlin was mentioning some of the apps that are available natively to Teams, and we can think about all the Office apps that are available, but we also have a lot of apps, over 300, 400, 500 apps that are available in an app catalog that you can go and have a look at, which will allow you to have more collaborative experience with some of the things that we're doing. And in the Kahoot that Dominic showed you a little bit earlier, it's just one of those apps that you could bring into there. So there's many different things that we can bring in and allow people to be able to use, easily add them into what you're doing. So one of those, and we're going to have a look at this in just a moment, is the ability to draw, plan and collaborate by bringing some of your things together in terms of things like infinite whiteboards. And there are a number of different apps that can support that. So we've got MindMeister, Miro, Mural, Stormboard. But we're going to have a look at necessarily the freehand one. I'm going to show you in a moment or two how that works so that we can bring in a freehand whiteboard into Teams and be able to ideate as we work our way through it, think of ideas, draw things up and make sure that that works for us in real time. And that gives us the opportunity to remotely work with others and start to pull together those ideas based around some of the things that was being talked about by Caitlin earlier on, where they're using things like Planner to keep on top of tasks, etc. The whiteboard gives you that ability to be able to do that and how you can have other people in there. So how would you bring in something like this if you're adding it into your team in particular? So you can add a tab app to the channel. You would click the plus button at the very top of your team. So we have posts and we have files that we've already gone through. And then at the far right of that, you have that plus button where you'd be able to then add it in. And having done that, you would then add in the Envision whiteboard. You would have to go through a couple of steps of setting yourself up with it and making sure that's working. And hopefully some of you have gone through that so you can look a little bit later on. And what I'm going to show now and talk through and narrate as we go through this is a short video of how we pulled this together. So in this particular area, I've gone up to the plus button. I've gone in to start looking for freehand by Envision by searching for it. And then I'm going to add it as an app. And in adding that app, you will notice then that it gives me the option to sign in or sign up. So in this case, I've already signed in. I've already signed up, so I'm now signing in. Going to enter the email address of the user that we're using here. And you can see that I'm signing in and creating my new freehand. And this new freehand I've called Physical Science in this particular instance. And as I'm creating this and making it, it will then get added to my particular team. So now you can see that it's added into the team, and I've just made sure it's big enough so we're in the general area. We've got the Physical Science tab, and it's then wanting to look at how we can create that. And I've gone and added in a template. And in adding in that template, I can now see with two of us working in here, I've jumped over to Maya, who's the student. Maya is actually typing some stuff into that particular cell, and I couldn't see it big enough on my own screen. So I've gone in and zoomed into it with my touch screen. And I can now see that Marsha's typing and what Marsha's putting into there. So obvious ideas from Marsha: send out marketing emails with offers, complicated ideas, bring a friend and reward them. So Marsha's starting to fill in some ideas and ideate around some of the things we're going to be doing there. And it's not just about typing. You can do other things, like you can put in post-it notes, and then you can add in parts to those post-it notes so that you can do things in a number of different ways. You can bring in photos if you're doing photos from different places off your PC or your own computer, and add those in so that you're able to keep building up what you're trying to do. You can pick up things, you can move them around. And I'm still following Marsha here, who's now gone to the right hand side and decided, okay, we need to make up a bit of a quadrant here. We might put down S for strengths, W for weaknesses, starting to think about a SWOT analysis, for example, and then we could start to ideate and fill in some of the things around there, as we can do that in multiple ways. Now, as we're following that, and we've followed that through, if I was wanting to see where one of the students was working in particular, I could actually press the play button there, and I can then lock myself to wherever that student is and make sure that wherever they go on the page, I was following them. So if I was unsure exactly what they were doing, I'd be able to follow them around and see where they're going and what they're up to. So it allows me to work with others as we see that. So now we move on to the activity portion of this. So there are, again, two tasks. The first task is to upload a file to files within Teams, and then pin that file to a channel other than the general channel in your team. So if you don't have more than one channel, you're going to have to create a channel 2. Task number 2 is to attach a file to a message post and then format the message with an announcement header. Okay. And so I'm going to give you, and then mention somebody or something within there whilst you're doing that. And obviously we've got our 5-minute timer that I'm going to start for you, and then we're going to walk through how we do that in a minute or two. Great. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a walkthrough of how to upload a file to the files within Teams and then pin that to a channel other than general. And we're going to do that one through a video, and then we're going to do the last one through being in Teams for live. So here we are in Microsoft Teams here, and we are going to go to week 3, climate systems, which is where we are at the moment. We're going to highlight the files area. We're then going to click on upload and choose a file, and notice here that it's going to then open my documents, and I've blurred out some of those at the moment. Whilst we just choose a folder there, and we're going to choose a folder, and it has the raw data file in it that I'm going to upload. So I select the file and I press open, and you will notice then that Teams is uploaded in the right hand corner, and it's uploaded raw data. I then want to pin it as a tab in this channel, so I go to the plus button on the far right hand side, and in this instance, because I know it's an Excel file, I'm going to select the Excel button and bring it in, and make sure that I give it a name. So I'm going to call this one data rather than Excel. So if I put a few Excel files in and leave it as Excel, I'm not quite going to make sure I describe it properly. So here I've described this as data, and it's then opening the pinned file all the time for me in my particular team. So really quite simple. You can do that with all sorts of different types of files. In this instance, I chose an Excel file, and that is fine. And if other people then wanted to come into here, they could do so. You'll notice I've got a few options. I could open it in the desktop app if I wanted to. I am editing it, but I could be doing viewing only, so I could change those options, and I can write some comments. And if other people come in, they would appear in here next to my file to be able to join me. So a really simple way to do a few things within there. What I'm going to do now then is I'm just going to jump back into Teams with our example. There we go. And you can see if I go to week 2 cells in this instance, that in here, I now want to start a conversation by attaching a file to a particular message. So I'm going to say, here is the data file. Okay. I'm going to attach my file by using the paperclip here. I was just setting up those files, so let me do that. I'm going to, in this instance now, browse Teams and channels, because I know that I've already got that data file in this up in my team already. So I'm going to go to it, and I popped it into the week 3 climate area. So I'm going to take it from here. I get a few options: cancel, upload as a copy, or share as a link. In this instance, I'm just going to share a link because I want it to be worked on by different people, and you can see that it's going to bring that in. Now, as part of the task there, you're asked to actually make it an announcement. So to do that, you have to open up the formatting area, and I'd go up to here and I would change it from new conversation to an announcement. And currently everyone can reply to this announcement, but as we talked through a little bit earlier, I might want to just change that to you a moderator. So I'm going to stop other people from replying, and then we're going to type in what the headline of this is. I'm going to put really important data. Okay, I can change the color of this header. I can also add in a background or a picture if I wanted to, so that I can do that. It's also useful then to add a bit of a subheading if you know some of the stuff that's there. The figures from recent survey. Okay, so I've said here's the data file, but I'm not actually calling this out to anyone. So I could, and I should actually put, here is the data file, I promise, and then maybe put in here at Ken. So, okay, so here is the data file, Ken. I can leave it as came out, or I can get rid of part of that, and it makes it just that little bit more personal. So I've done the at mention, I've done the announcement, and by giving it some information there, and I've also attached the file, which is what we wanted to do, to a message. So I'm now going to post that. And there you can see that is my announcement with my file for people to be able to look at, and I've at mentioned Ken, so Ken would then get a notification to know that somebody has posted that file for him to look at in particular. Ken could reply, Ken might just go and open it and start working on it, or whatever it is that he needs to do in that particular way. So that takes me to the end of the 2 sessions that I'm doing for today.
Thank y'all all for joining, and I hope you've learned a lot about the Teams space, and it's given you a lot of thought and color around how you could start applying it inside of your districts and institutions today. So I would like to welcome you on this next journey that we're going to be walking through, which is really around one of our most requested topics we get, which is, I have an LMS, can I still use Teams? And we want to talk through that, as Chris was just saying, really exploring how you can still use Microsoft Teams to augment and add a lot of depth and richness to your LMS environment. So before we continue on with that journey, I want to take you back to where you started earlier this morning with this image. Hopefully everyone remembers it. And we're going to just, and if you were not able to join the keynote, I want to kind of bring your attention to Teams and really make sure you understand that Teams is your one hub where everyone is connected in your organization. We're going to be focusing on the teaching and learning, so how Teams lives in the classroom space. But it is very important to realize, just as Chris was showing you, there is so much that can be added in to the Teams space to really make it rich. So I wanted to recenter everyone, bring it back to this place so that we can continue exploring how can Teams help you or be worked alongside your LMS. So something that I think would resonate with everyone here, we know that there is a lot of richness that comes in. There's a lot of building blocks for that modern education institution. There's a lot of things, especially as we've seen in a virtual environment, but even more so, even in the classroom, you're still going to have to be able to provide the course material and management. And we have seen how this has even become even more so in that virtual environment. So I wanted to just start it off here to let you know that right out of the box with Office 365 and Teams, you have a powerful solution set that will really help you achieve all of these important tasks that you need to do in order to make sure all of your learners are getting an enriched environment. And so that can be a marriage between like SharePoint and Teams coming together for helping with that course material and management. But something that I think everyone is resonating with right now is really, how do you capture those lectures and the video content and where to store that? And you can have that with Stream and Teams currently, right out of the box currently right now. Also in assessments, in an earlier session, you would have seen how that how you could have used forms to capture whether it's quizzes or surveys. And then of course, something that is really important while we're in a virtual environment, even more so when we get back in the classroom though, is how do we pull out some analytics and really make sure that we're reaching every learner where they are. And you can do that with Power BI integration. As you start thinking through Teams, and especially how it works if you have an LMS, there's going to be something I want you to kind of resonate with, is that Teams has something for everyone. We can meet you where you are, and a lot of the Teams experience can be very customized to what your needs as a district is. So a lot of times we have about 3 categories I like to break it up in, that we kind of see as the most common categories that most institutions are going to live in. And the first one, you're going to see it as your LMS is for your learning content, and Teams is really going to be that collaboration hub. And I want to make sure I point out that word collaboration, because we're going to explore that a little bit more as we move forward in this session. You've been seeing how you can collaborate inside the Teams space. I really want to show that better together story, really how teams can augment your LMS, is going to be because of the collaboration power that's built into Teams. Next option or category that we see a lot of is that Teams is the hub that is paired or integrated with the LMS. And that's going to be, we're going to touch on that in the later part of this presentation, and you're going to see really how like Moodle and D2L really take that integration, and you're going to see how it can live even more in a together space for a learning environment for your students. And then if you do not have an LMS, a lot of the districts we work with, they will ask, well, we don't have an LMS. Could Teams be a good option for this? And Teams is a wonderful learning platform. As you saw, as I was pointing out in that earlier slide, and as you've seen in the other sessions, Teams being your hub where everyone is connected and everything is connected, you can add in the first-party applications you love so much and the third-party applications that you're using, and really have a very dynamic collaboration and learning platform in one space. So really, it's where you're at in the journey and where we can help complement and supplement what you're already doing in your learning space. So now that we kind of get that foundation, I want us to dive into, well, what does the LMS Better Together with Teams story really look like? And why is that even valuable to really explore? So a lot of times we're especially right now in a virtual environment, a lot of times we think that it needs to be a meeting space we need to establish to have that learning. And I think we would all agree that the digital meeting space needs to be just as connected and interactive as it was in our physical classrooms when we were together. And so having a Better Together story allows you to have an enriched meeting experience where you can share those files, you can add in the tabs, you can put the comments and the collaboration together, you can make announcements, you have messaging options, and you can really extend your collaboration space with additional apps and bots if you want to, while also at the same time living in your LMS by having, keeping assignments in your LMS or quizzes or grades. We can even work with your IT department, or you can as well, to customize your team space by removing assignments so that there's not the confusion for teachers to know, well, where do I go to put in my assignment? They would have one central location. So think about it as like the collaboration, the work in progress, getting everyone together, the group-based work, and then the final process or the final assessment being living in your LMS. So that's really kind of why there's so much a draw for pulling more of that integration, that Better Together for a Teams and LMS to live together. Taking that one step further, if you currently use an LMS, you might have already started to recognize or use some of our other LTI integrations. So like OneDrive, you can connect into an LMS, Schoology, Canvas, Blackboard, D2L. You can also add in Word, Excel, and OneNote class notebook. If you have a LMS that allows you to have Immersive Reader as an option, you can also take advantage of this amazing accessibility feature in your LMS space. If your LMS currently does not have this integration with Immersive Reader, you can use that in the Teams space. So Teams has a lot of accessibility built into it because, again, it's your digital team space. We want you to be able to work together, and that means every voice has to be heard, everyone has to be included, and we have to make sure we reach all students. And so by having the ability to have Immersive Reader in Teams, your students will be able to access chats, post, meeting chats in real time, and put it into a familiar UI that they already know how to navigate to better participate. So it's just one level more of how the two can live together and really complement each other inside of your classroom, whether it's physical or a digital space that you're having to teach in during this time. So that leads us to probably the most popular form of integration we have currently between our LMSs and our teams. And that's one reason why I wanted to kind of really bring to the forefront of your mind right now, collaboration, and then also meetings. So when we had to go remote, we worked so closely with our amazing LMS partners to produce some awesome integrations in the meeting space between LMSs that are listed here and teams, which was a wonderful, wonderful need that was really fulfilled in record time. And we have seen such a great use of it. And teachers and districts are just, they need that secure meeting platform that's integrated into their LMS. The next level is really like, how do we make those meetings even more robust, more impactful? Just as if we were meeting in person and we needed to access a file that was shared, or we need to reference the white notes from the whiteboard. If we need to reference the meeting notes, how do we do that in a centralized location? And so that's why we have a best practice that we like to encourage all teachers to really adopt, and institutions, that the best practice is still to have a class team to match your course registration and use the channel meetings so that you can continue to have a very dynamic post-meeting collaboration. And that's something that we'll go into a little bit. And so you may be asking, like, well, why does that matter? And so a lot of it goes into, well, what extends beyond the meeting space? It's just like when we're in a classroom or we're face-to-face, there's a lot of interaction that happens. You can break students into groups, you can have interactions with each other, you share notes, you apply assessments. It's the same theme that can happen in the digital space through the meeting platform, especially when you take advantage of creating it through your Teams channel. So that is always going to be our best practice. You will have the option to create it through your LMS, as you can see, but there's a lot of value when you actually create a matching team. Because remember, we want to focus on that team collaboration to augment your LMS and to really bring to life just what we're seeing in the marketplace right now, which is just needing more connection while we're so virtual. And so this will allow you to really make sure the students have access to any of the recordings, they can access the chats, and they can, of course, add any kind of files or access files that were shared during that meeting space. So you might be asking, well, how do we make this easy? Because that would be a lot of class teams we would have to create. And I want you to rest assured that we have some options here to help you make this really easy and simple. So first and foremost, we have School Data Sync. That is a free resource that can work with your IT team to actually roster your classes just like you would an LMS. So it would match with your student information system and pull the course rosters, students, instructors, make sure they're mapped together. And it would create a class team that your professor or teacher could go into and create it, build it out the way they need to before they actually publish it for all the students to actively participate in that team space. You also have the option for the Microsoft Graph API. And so both of those discussions you can find resources for those, and we'll provide more resources for you on that. But these are wonderful ways for you to go ahead and automatically create a class team that lives aside your LMS and allows you that more in-depth collaboration experience that is so needed and that you've seen demoed through all of these other previous sessions. So as we've kind of explored that first category, that first bucket, now we're going to go to the next level of integration, where Teams is that hub and living within your LMS. And for that, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Jethro Seegers to walk you through that.
Thank you, Desiree. Let me just share my screen real quick so we can jump over to the next part. And so you should be seeing my screen right now. And so the next example, kind of like Desiree already said, right, is where the previous part that she highlighted was really where you had your LMS next to your Teams environment as a setup. In this scenario, we're really going to look at how Teams can be that hub paired with your LMS content. And just to take one specific LMS as an example, we're going to do this with Moodle. So if you have Moodle as your learning management system today in your organization, this is something that you can do today. If you have other learning management systems in your organization available, know that we're continuously working with our LMS partners to really provide that same richness in the experience that you might have. But if you're using Moodle, you're in luck. You can actually do this right now. So when we look at things, right, is the experience when Teams is your hub, we're really going to bring your learning management system as a separate tab in the classroom that you have within Teams. So where you have access to the different channels, where you have access to the chat, the files, the class materials, everything that the previous speakers have been highlighting, what we have here is really that integration directly as a tab with Moodle. Now, additionally, because we have all our courses in Moodle, because we have all our content in Moodle, we're also going to use the automation to make sure that everything is connected with each other. So that means that you don't have to log in again. So you're using the same authentication. It means that all the information is there with just a single click in your availability. So when we look at specifically Moodle and Teams, we're going to see that there's a number of features that you can take advantage of. So first of all, like I already mentioned, is every class team in Teams will relate to a course that you have specifically in Moodle. We also bring in the Moodle calendar, the activity feed, the resources, and of course, everything that you have needs to be user-friendly. So that also means an integrated login. And this integration is really something that we worked on with one of our amazing education partners, is Schooler. And so Schooler brings an app that is available in the Teams App Store that you can just deploy directly in your Teams environment and make that connection, make that integration immediately available. So on the right-hand side, you kind of see already, and then we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive later on in the slide deck as well. But you see that you have your Teams class, so D112, Intro to Urban Planning, and you see also that we have there the integration with Moodle. So I have the title, I have the general information, I have all the resources available without really having to leave Teams. And that's really what it literally means for Teams to be that hub. It really brings everything in one centralized environment, and you can actually use these resources without having to leave Teams. So when we look a little bit in detail, how that actually looks like. So what we're going to do is we're actually going into our course, and you see here that we have a tab for Moodle. We're just going to click on the sign in button. You see immediately I pick up the username and password, automatically it is available. And I here have a number of resources that I bring in directly from Moodle itself. So that content still lives in Moodle. You see here that I can just immediately take the use of the full real estate that I have in Teams. I have the feed, I have the participants. Here I have my syllabus, right? Again, full single sign-on, and I see here that I have everything from Moodle directly into my Teams environment. So people don't have to worry about how do I bring everything over. If you want to see a video, fully integrated. If I want to touch my grades, fully integrated. If I want to have, in this case, the urbanization resources, I have that completely available directly into Teams without really having to think about what do we need to do. Additionally, I also have this dashboard specifically for teachers, specifically for administrators, where we can just go in and see everything that you normally would see in Moodle as well. I can go here into my Teams creator and say, okay, these are the courses that I want to see available into Teams, and those will be automatically created. So this is really something when you do have that full, or when you do want that full experience directly from Moodle into Teams, that is an additional value that you have today that you can just pick up and install the application or deploy the application and set it up, right? So it really brings a lot of that functionality directly into your team's environment, right? So keep in mind, it's free to use, so there's no additional cost, right? So Schooler is really bringing this free of cost application into Teams, and it's a very easy setup. If you do need some help, Schooler can help, we can help. You can actually reach out to them using that specific email address. But as you can see here, it really delivers this additional value where everything comes together and augments, hence the title of the session, what you have from your learning management system, but also what you have from Teams, because Moodle is going to bring in some functionality, Teams is going to bring in some functionality, and you really have the best of both worlds at that time based on your fingertips. There's also a support for SCORM, and Juliano during the keynote already kind of highlighted specifically what we're doing with SCORM, but I want to go a little bit more in detail because we got a few questions during the Q&A or in the Q&A as well, what SCORM actually is. So SCORM is actually an industry standard that allows you to bring in specific content from other learning management systems into Teams. And for example, in an organization that has a large catalog, let's call it, of SCORM packages, is actually the Blended Learning Consortium. So what they do is they have a huge amount of SCORM packages that you can just bring into Teams. Comes with your resources, comes with assignments, comes with websites that are interesting for a specific course, a specific topic. And what we've done is we worked with another amazing education partner, in this case, Go1, that actually allows them to bring in all that information. So instead of just recreating everything, instead of just creating your resources from scratch, if you have packages available that are in the SCORM format, this is something that is really useful for you guys, that you can just bring in all that information directly into Teams and really come with a pre-built information source directly into your classrooms. Teams and Go1, we're very fortunate that we can work with such an amazing partner. They do offer the best content search experience. So if you're looking for additional information, they offer that service as well, whether that's from a first grade all the way to higher education. They do have these resources available that you can tap into. The setup is super easy. It does require your admin to be a part of it, but you can actually do it literally in 2 minutes. And it's completely free to see your SCORM content. So if you're really interested in what SCORM can do for you and how you can bring it into Teams, that's exactly what Go1 can do for your classroom, for your organization, and have that available. So this is also something that Desiree already showed, but I do want to kind of highlight it because what we're seeing a lot is that people get super laser focused on one specific part when we're talking about Microsoft or Office 365 in your organization. We have so many amazing services ready for you to use that are a part of Office 365, right? And just to give you a few examples, take your video content, for example. Stream is amazing to distribute video content. First of all, it's fully integrated with Teams. So if you're recording your meetings, they're automatically going to be saved on Stream, but also from a streaming perspective, from a closed caption perspective, this is something that you absolutely want to take a look at. Also, what is very interesting is, for example, course materials and management, right? The combination of the class notebook with Teams and SharePoint, that's really where a lot of these features play very well together to enrich that environment. So don't think about just Office 365 where you're super focused on one specific thing. Think about the whole package. Think about the whole technology that you have at your fingertips. And actually, The next session I'm going to do is about booking. So I have not put it on here, but we're going to go really in depth what booking can do, or bookings technically, I need to say, can do for you from a tutoring perspective, from a scheduling perspective, right? How you can augment just your regular classroom with these additional features. Just to make sure that we are respectful of your time commitment as well, we're going to go to our next session, which is in this case our booking session.
Microsoft Bookings is the last session for today. And what it allows you to do is save yourself a tremendous amount of time when you are doing things like virtual office hours, mentoring sessions, or tutorials, because what it means is that you can then create a page that students can then access, which allows them to book time either with you or with a set group of people that have been selected. This is really helpful because what it means is you don't have to then do the manual trying to worry about, okay, if someone books this time, do I have to then manually go over and remove it from the calendar? It all works automatically because this is part of Office 365. The one thing to keep in mind is it does require the paid A3 license to access Microsoft Bookings. So if you don't see it, have a chat with your IT administrator. Microsoft Bookings is part of the Office 365 suite. So what you'll be seeing just there is if we head on over right now, if I go to office.com, Office.com allows me to see all of the apps available to me as part of my Office license. And if I click on all apps, Bookings with B comes right at the start. So this is something to be aware of as a really nice tool that's available as part of Office 365. What this is going to allow me to do is really nicely go through, and what you'll see here is it works with your calendar. And this is the best part about it. It means you have, again, a single source of truth. You're not having to manage 2 or 3 different calendars. You don't need to manage your calendar, a calendar for your tutorials, a calendar for your office hours. What this is doing is it also can allow you to automatically create a Teams meeting as well during the booking, which is really particularly useful during these remote times that we are in. So you'll see if we head into Microsoft Teams, we even have a booking app within Teams. So if you simply go to the App Store and search for Bookings, you'll have the ability then to add the Bookings app within Teams itself. To set it up, and this one will just be going as an overview, so we won't be going in depth as the activity for this one, but again, you have the slides to be able to follow along. Is if you click to set it up, you'll notice when I've added the Bookings app within Teams, I can click on Get Started. Then I can click on New Booking Calendar, or you could use an existing booking calendar. I can go through and give it a name. So my science tutoring, for example, I can select the type of calendar I want. For me, it's going to be education, and then add in my email address. What this means is I now have the booking calendar created. And what I can then do is I can pin this on my left-hand side. So this is one of what we call a personal app. So only you can see this. Your students will not see it. This is just the view of your bookings calendar. No one else can see it, unless you, of course, you add a fellow colleague as a fellow staff member. And then the last thing that we do is we head on over to click on the Open Bookings web app. The reason we go to open the web app, that's what you saw I was going to from office.com, is that gives me then the ability to set up my type of tutorial, mentoring session, office hours, you name it, whatever you want to call it, or the amount of time you want to set it for. We just need to create that because it's the first time you've been setting this up. So this is where, again, we're just doing an overview here. I'm not expecting you to follow along right now, but you will have the slides to do this in your own time. But this is where I can go through. I can click on appointment type, add new appointment type, and that's where I can then create, for example, my office hours. I can then assign the staff who will be part of it. I can then also automatically add a Teams meeting. And that's really great to see the Office 365 environment working together, meaning I don't even have to send a meeting link. It all happens automatically. And you can even do group sessions where it says number of maximum attendees. You can set that to be 1, 5, 10, which is useful for group office hours also. Now, last but not least, we then, once our booking page is ready, we click on the booking page and then click publish to make sure it's a web page. And then what this does is it creates a website that you can then embed You can embed that link that you see here. It says share your booking page, and you click copy. You can embed that link on your learning management system page. You can embed that into a SharePoint site, or we can embed that into a Microsoft team. You'll notice here I can then add a website tab. And what this allows me to do is go through and then pin this directly into the team itself. But this is just a website that you could embed anywhere. And that bookings page then allows me to have students book a meeting. So you might be saying, okay, Dominic, well, what does this all look like together? And remember, this is just an overview of bookings. We can then certainly do a more in-depth session in the future, depending on how many people want to see more. But what this looks like is here, you can see now I've got my tutoring page. This is just a pre-made example. So this is a business course where we have our business school entrepreneurship course. Right now, I'm currently logged in as a student named Douglas. As that student, I'm going through and I want to have a meeting. I can pick from either Kara or I can pick from Ken. So if I pick Ken or Kara, this is where I can then see in real time what is available. What's also really useful is, again, I'm not having to email them asking when are they available. They've preset what times they would like me to be able to select from. And we also, you saw just there, I could open up the time zone. So this automatically detects your time zone. Great for students who might be international. So let's say they might be in a different time zone. They would see it in their local time. So maybe you're based in London and they're based in Berlin, or maybe over in Seattle, which is where I am right now. And that all updates to the local time, which is really nice to make it easy for students to pick a time that will suit them. We can go through here. We can see that Kara right now has time at 2:30. We can then also pick again, and we could go back and see Ken's calendar by comparison. And then by clicking book, what that does, it's now reserved a tutorial time for Douglas to be able to then meet with the selected person. What we'll see here is then Douglas has now set up a time both separately once with Kara, and then he's also set up another time with Ken, Ken being another one of the tutors in this subject. And you can see there, that's where we have that view of bookings within Teams. So what are we seeing here? Well, right now, because Douglas has scheduled a tutorial, it automatically appeared in his calendar. And from his calendar, this is where he automatically receives a calendar invite, which would be both in Outlook and in Teams. And he can then also join with one click his online session. And remember, Ken did not need to do anything for this. All Ken did was set up that bookings page. Douglas was able to pick a time that suited him. And then when Douglas picked that time, it automatically reserved that in Ken's booking calendar, which also put it into his main calendar, meaning he could easily then join the online meeting through Microsoft Teams. And just like that, we can now see from Ken's perspective on the left-hand side, Douglas on the right-hand side, Ken on the left, he's able to say, okay, I've got a 30-minute tutoring session with Douglas. That was the name of the session he had created. And this all automatically was then put into Ken's calendar because he had set up that booking page and created the types of online meetings that he wanted. So this is just a really quick overview of bookings, but it's just been a great one that's saving a lot of educators a lot of time. Really helpful as well for teachers who want to do parent interviews or parent meetings, just as a quick one there. So this takes us to time for today. So this is now a wrap up that we have following our afternoon sessions. And it's been a tremendous first day, and I really want to thank everyone for your time. We'll just be just a few more moments to wrap up today, but to look at really and reflect on what we covered. It's been a tremendous amount of information, and hopefully you've been finding it really useful to see both real examples from educators, how they're using Microsoft Teams, to be able to see what's new and what's coming soon to Microsoft Teams. The opportunity to see how it's being used for synchronous teaching, how you can receive feedback from students. And this is where you have the ability to also go through and then go ahead and then be able to then see real-time collaboration, which Alan did a wonderful overview of, the ability to go through and then see, for example, the opportunity for how we can then see a learning management system being used with Microsoft Teams. And then we finished on a quick overview covering off then bookings for Microsoft Teams. And I want to say a huge thank you from myself and the team. It has been an incredible experience to be able to run this for you for the third year And for the first year remote, we've had hundreds of people join us. It's been overwhelming. And I just want to say thank you so much for such a wonderful afternoon. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a lovely rest of your day and afternoon. And we'll see you tomorrow for day 2 of the Teams and Microsoft Education Digital event. Thank you.